also transition, kind of talking about the youth. We've got Kent Woodyard with us. We saw from him earlier today. He's working directly with Pushpay, and he's around partnerships, but really has a lot of insight on bringing some of those mobile technologies into fundraising, faith. How do we hit these younger demographics? And I'll just introduce you again, Kent, if you want to just do a short little synopsis. I think we got some new people on the line here, so take it away.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Jared. Good to see you again. If you were here this morning, my name's Kent. I am the Director of Business Development for eChurch and Pushpay. So I'm here in our offices in Redmond, Washington. And short of it is I work with all of our strategic partners. So anyone that we're working with to find alignment with or build technical integrations with, or just come alongside to serve churches in more meaningful and effective ways. It's kind of my role. It's pretty fun because I get to come to places like this and hang out with people like Jared and just have these types of conversations, which are super fun for me.
Absolutely. And I've got a little set of questions for you. We're trying to keep this more of a panel and get everybody engaged on that end. So yeah. I had crafted what role or what should they play, mission trip play, in increasing the overall giving to the church? What should that look like? Yeah,
I love it. And we talk with churches about this all the time because we're a mobile giving platform. So we're here to help churches increase generosity. And so churches, sometimes they'll feel like they've capped out or they just don't know like how, besides just preaching more sermons about giving, like how can you actually tug on the hearts of people to reach into their wallets and step out in faith and generosity. And so the role that I see missions playing, and I love this, is it's kind of a way to connect with first-time givers or to engage with people who aren't already giving to your church in different ways. In the marketing world, we call it like top of funnel. So you got to have content up here that's going to be broadly applicable to a lot of different people to just get them in to your channel. And then from there, you're going to pull them slower into deeper engagement. And so there are people in your church who are not giving right now. And that could be for a variety of reasons. But one of them could be that, they're just not quite connected with the mission of funding your church's operating budget, right? Which, that's going to speak to different people. But one thing that we know from research is that millennials especially, they get the rap for being not generous, which is not actually true. They're actually extremely generous, especially when compared to other generations. But they are very cause-driven, right? So millennials are going to respond to stories. They're going to respond to campaigns, to missions where they feel like they're making a tangible impact. And at a church, missions are the clearest and most obvious connection to that, right? So what we see with millennials is they're not giving for the same out of compulsion or maybe out of obligation like some other generations have in the past. So this time when churches are thinking, hey, people are going to give to the church because the Bible tells us to, we're commanded to tithe 10% of our income, so that's what people are going to do. We're just seeing that that's not happening. And what's happening is that people are giving, but they're giving to more places. We saw an interesting stat the other day that said, I have it right here, 32% of all charitable giving in the United States goes to religious organizations, which sounds pretty good. But in the 80s, that number was 58%. And so what we're seeing is that churches comprise a smaller portion of the overall giving that people are doing. And so you got to think of your church as in competition in a sense with these other, World Vision, Samaritan's Purse, Salvation Army, right? Any GoFundMe campaign, like all really valuable and really great uses of resources. But giving people a reason to give to your church. So kind of thinking of it like that is, hey, this is going to be a way for people who maybe aren't giving on a regular basis to say, man, somebody was sharing about this on Facebook, or I know a buddy who's going on this trip to Kenya later this summer. I'm going to give to that trip. And then, if you're using a consolidated system, if you have a system like Focus where it's plugged into your church management platform, right, that's going to give you visibility into that individual. And then that becomes an outreach opportunity to draw them further into the life of your church, where then, eventually, once they become a member or a regular attender, maybe then they'll start giving to the general operating budget. But what you want to do is just get them giving, right? Get them giving any way you can, and use missions as a way to kind of spark that initial act of generosity, which then we see it's like a snowball. It just builds momentum as it goes. So I think that's the important role, increasing giving that missions can play.
That's awesome. Now, oftentimes I'll see certain churches that don't want to announce trips or really kind of stagger them in fear of potentially affecting the bottom line of the giving process. What would you say to those pastors that are a little bit hesitant to give
Sure.
that full support, maybe from the pulpit? Marcia, talking with us earlier, what helped them grow so much is the full buy-in of the organization, both in the lobby, in advertising. What's kind of some of those hurdles that, or ways we can overcome those hurdles,
Sure.
maybe where there's resistance?
Hey, and absolutely, a lot of churches, if they're maybe struggling to meet their budget, or there's kind of some financial strain, like every dollar counts, right? And I get it. You don't want a dollar that needs to be going to maybe the children pastor's salary going to a mission trip instead, or it feels like this kind of either or opportunity. Hold on one second, Jared. I got to clear my throat a little bit.
That's all right. I've been doing that all day.
I had some spicy chili for lunch. So yeah, the way we encourage pastors and church leaders to think about this is, hey, it's not about another slice of the pie, right? It's about increasing the total size of the pie. So you're not taking $10 that was going to go to generate operating budget and now sending that on a missions trip. It's saying, hey, this is $10 that was not coming in previously that we want to put in this direction, because we know that together it's going to fuel increased overall giving. And just one example that comes to mind is, so we can see data in our platform, right, of giving behaviors and how people operate over time with their contributions to their church. And so we see that, I think it's some crazy number, like over 70% of the gifts that come in through Pushpay are recurring gifts. So they're just monthly. This is how I give to my church. It's just, you set it, it's consistent, goes out every month. And that's generally how we do most of our giving. But for every $100 that comes in through the platform on a recurring gift, we also see $28 that's given, and we call it above and beyond, kind of spontaneous giving by this individual, right? And so it's not just their giving that's just set recurring each month. They're also looking for additional opportunities to engage in generosity throughout the month. And this is the really crucial role that I think that that generosity can play, and that missions can play in this whole equation. Because one of the challenges with doing what we've done, my wife and I, which is set up a recurring gift that goes to our church, is you start to not really feel it anymore. The generosity just becomes like another bill. Like, all right, there's my cable bill, there's my phone bill, and oh, there's my church bill that went out the door this month. And you don't quite have that active, fully engaged moment of giving. And so that's what I love as a mission trip, is when a missionary comes to church, like, oh, here's an opportunity to give to this individual. So that kind of sparks an intentional act. It sparks an in-the-moment gift. And so it kind of re-engages that whole thought process around giving. And so I love that as a way that, again, not cannibalizing. You're not saying, hey, we're only going to get this amount in giving this year. And so any dollar that we give to missions is dollar that's going away from kind of our core financial budget. It's saying, no, like we're going to use this as a conduit to increase the giving that we're receiving this year.
That's excellent. Now, what are some tools that we could craft for deeper engagement in missions, whether in the four walls of the church or as we go out?
Absolutely. So two tools specific, real easy: social and mobile. Those are the two that we hit on all the time. And I think this is an area where churches can get more strategic around their giving and around their missions. And that's why I love that you guys are having this conference and you're providing strategies, right? And sometimes as church leaders, we get a little squeamish when we start talking strategy, right? It sounds very corporate. It sounds very business. It sounds not necessarily maybe spirit driven, we can call it, but really what we're talking about is just being effective and finding ways to leverage existing tools and technologies to make a more powerful impact. So social is absolutely a key thing there. Churches, they're using social media, they're using Facebook, they're using Twitter, but one of the biggest challenges we see them run into is content. Like, where do you get good content as a church? You can share sermon snippets, you can share Bible quotes, you can share like little graphics with the verse on it and all of that. But that's only going to get you so far, where mission trips provide an incredible opportunity for really, really engaging social content. And what you just said, Jared, when you were talking, I'm going to forget his name already, to the gentleman who's on right before me about, Jonathan, 30 people maybe go on mission trips this year for your church. Well, yeah, what about the other 970 who are back at home? And this is a way that you bring them along with you, right? You bring the social, the social element draws them into the experience and makes it more engaging and interactive for the whole community. When we talk about giving specifically, millennials, in addition to being cause-driven and wanting to see tangible results, the other thing there is they're social givers, just because they're social in so many other ways. And so that's where companies like CrowdRaise, companies like GoFundMe, Indiegogo, Kickstarter, that's how these things have all gotten, because it was so shareable. It's so viral. And so generally speaking, you're not going to have somebody who gives to church and be like, go to Facebook and say, hey, I just tithe to First Baptist Church. You know, that's not necessarily, it's a personal kind of private event. But giving to missions, supporting a missions trip, you know, going alongside a team who's going to go do some incredible work overseas, that is a very shareable, very, very social activity that kind of connects the team that's going in the act of supporting them with any other followers who are hearing it. May not go to your church, maybe they're not engaged at all, but it provides a really great story to tell about the outreach that your church is doing outside your four walls. And you see this example, like I had some examples of nonprofits that do a really, really great job of this, right? I don't know how much you follow World Vision, Jared, but you know, the 6K for water, have you heard of the race that they do?
I sure have.
Yeah. So my wife and I ran this last year, and I was just blown away at like what an incredible like vehicle this was, because it's a 6K. For those of you who don't know, you can go online, you can sign up for it. It's coming up in May again. But instead of going to an event, you're just kind of arranging it in your neighborhood and pull some friends together and you go run a 6K around your neighborhood. But what they've done is they've connected that event with the impact it's having. So 6K is the average distance that people in the developing world have to walk to get clean water. And $50, which is the cost of the bib, is the enough to buy clean water for an individual in the developing world for a year. And then they're going to put a child's face on the bib who's been provided clean water by your participation. So it's that kind of thing that just makes it so clear the impact and the power that you're giving is having, that makes it a viral event. Like I think they had 30,000 people run this thing last year because it's so powerful. And so churches, you know, we have opportunities to do this, but it takes things like mission trips. It takes things like, you know, outreach opportunities, disaster relief opportunities, things like that. Teams going down to Houston and Florida to do with hurricane relief, things like that are going to make it meaningful and powerful to people who, you know, they're not going to respond to you being like, hey, we just hired a new youth pastor. Cool. Thanks for your giving. That's not going to really mean a lot outside of your community, whereas these other things will. So that's the social aspect. The mobile aspect is just, hey, you've got to be where the people are, right? And with these devices in our pockets and in our hands, more often in our hands, probably, it's, you see these crazy numbers that Americans, we spend 5 hours a day on our cell phones. We check them 150 times a day. It's insane. And so you need to make sure that once you've created these trips, once you've sent the teams, once you're using social to draw attention to them, that there's a very easy and clear call to action that's going to be able to be, you know, to connect the intention to give and the act of giving right there on their phones, right? So you need to make sure that once you've had this really great experience, you've tugged their heartstrings, you've got them in, they're not then getting sent to a website where they've got to click and drag and pinch and try to get this form to fit on their screen, and they're filling out 18 different fields, and it's just a big headache to complete. It needs to be every bit as seamless as, you know, clicking a video on Facebook, liking it, getting plugged into the trip and the story that's going on there, and then being able to connect that via mobile. So I think that's our approach to it. Pushpay is obviously heavily invested in mobile. For that reason, is we know that people give more, and they give more consistently when they're on a mobile device, just because of the opportunity that's there. And so that's where we think that this is going and will continue to go, and that's where we're looking to continue to drive support for missions through these platforms.
That's excellent. That's excellent. And we had talked about it a little earlier today. There is a relationship that's starting with Pushpay, and it's something both from a methodology and a capture point that we want to be able to bring to you guys as customers or potential customers. There's a lot of overlap between the organizations that we help out already. And so that's something to be looking for on the horizon. I just want to say thank you so much. That's some really, really great insight. We're trying to bring education with that spice of creativity, especially towards the latter half of this conference. It's being able to reach people at where they're at. And that has been what's so wildly impacting, as Jonathan was calling it, the golden age. But this unbelievable opportunity to really serve people directly in their community and provide, from a financial standpoint, just a quick and easy means of going about it. There's no more, I don't have, you do, and you're correlated with a system like a Pushpay. You're going to be able to really see an increase in giving, and even by going online transactions, on focus missions, we're seeing an increase of 60%.
Yeah.
So with that extra added advantage, it allows Pushpay to be a great partner in the future. And so, guys, thank you so much. I just really excited to talk a little bit of millennial, and then hopefully we're stirring up ideas as to how we can be more and more relevant. And again, take this financial element and impact more people. So we've got one little poll. If you want to fill that out, we're more than welcome to go that way. We're going to hop off for 10 minutes here, and we're going to be bringing up our legal conversation. Kevin Henderson is going to be joining us. So we're going to go on hold for the next 10 minutes, and then we'll come back to Kevin. Thank you guys so much. Get your questions ready for legal insights. Thank you so much.